Welcome to the Photo Banter podcast. Before we get into the Elizabeth Weinberg interview today, I actually want to tell you about a new image transfer tool I've been using lately called PicDrop. PicDrop's a really great tool for when you need to send off those photos to your clients or whoever you're working with. You can create private galleries, different folders for whatever various assignments you're working on. I've been using it for a little over a month now and really enjoy it. It's helped me kind of streamline my workflow and keep all my files in one spot when I need to send them off to my clients. For years, I was using like Dropbox and WeTransfer and things like that. But with PicDrop, it was actually designed by photographers, so they really understand what photographers need. And like I said, I've really been enjoying it. And actually, with today's podcast, if you use the promo code PhotoBanter, you're going to get 3 months free when you sign up at PicDrop.com. So definitely go check it out and let me know what you guys think. And remember to enter the promo code PhotoBanter, and you'll get 3 months free when you sign up at PicDrop.com. And without further ado, we'll get in with the Elizabeth Weinberg interview. Thanks so much. Welcome to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, I speak with photographer and director Elizabeth Weinberg. Elizabeth has worked with clients such as Netflix, Target, Rolling Stone, Pepsi, and is also a regular contributor to the New York Times. She has photographed everyone from John Mayer, Selena Gomez, DJ Kahled, and Danny Devito, to name a few. In this interview, I speak to Elizabeth about her approach to marketing, some of her early assignments, and also some of her directing work. I've been following Elizabeth's work for years, so I was really excited to get a chance to speak with her about her work, and also psyched. She actually grew up in the same town as me in Massachusetts, Franklin, Mass. So excited to have another Franklin, Mass native on the podcast, and just have a lot of respect for her work. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and thanks so much for listening. All right, well, Elizabeth Weinberg, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
I was excited.
Glad we finally made it happen.
Yeah, I was excited to, like I said, you're one of the most requested guests to come on the podcast. So I was excited to talk to you, fellow former Franklin, Mass resident. So pretty excited about that. But I guess to start off, I was kind of curious what you've been working on lately.
Oh, what have I been working on lately? A bunch of things, kind of lots of stuff at once. I have a few like motion projects that I'm kind of in the midst of production with. I'm doing kind of some fun stuff like a fashion film, and then I'm doing a kind of documentary type film for a friend's company. So I'm working on those various stages of production. So it takes a lot longer than a photo shoot, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I do a lot of work for the New York Times. So I've had a couple of shoots in the last week, and in the process of editing those things. And yeah, there's just always kind of something in the various stages of completion at all times.
I like it. Staying busy. Is the motion stuff, is that something you find yourself doing more and more lately?
I'm trying to. It's kind of, you kind of have to do it to do more of it. You just have to like kind of dive in.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do more. So in order to do more, like for work, it's kind of produce stuff that that I can show. That like, hey, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So so I'm really trying to get into it more and kind of combine it with my photo universe.
Yeah,
so,
definitely, especially with like the commercial stuff. Do you find like a lot of jobs have like a motion component nowadays? Like I know you do a lot of advertising too, on top of all like the New York Times stuff you do. But you find it's more of like if you have that extra asset, it's kind of easier and find more work and whatnot?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely something that adds to your like marketability. If you have that experience, it kind of streamlines things. Like I just did a shoot in March where I directed and also shot the stills, and we kind of configured the day where we would do the motion part and then we would do the stills part, and it flowed really nicely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's cool. Do you like working that way where you kind of have to do both at the same time? Is it a challenge, or is it this kind of just a different workflow for you at this point?
It's different, but it's not really the same time. Like it's not um, doing it literally both at the same time. We kind of schedule the day in a way that it's the photos are the photos, and then the motion part is the motion part.
Hmm.
There are some shoots where they have a director, and then they want the photographer to shoot alongside them, and that's like kind of a different ball game.
Hmm.
It's that can get more challenging, but when it's just me, it's really really nice to kind of keep the whole thing consistent, like style wise as well.
That's cool. And I guess to kind of go back a bit, I guess like kind of where did you grow up initially, and like how do you kind of get into photography starting out?
So I grew up in Franklin, Mass,
All right,
and
Franklin, Mass.
yeah, and I guess I just had went to a lot of concerts, and um, my youngest sister was born when I was 15, so I was always taking pictures of her. It was just kind of something that I just did without really thinking about it in the future. It was just fun for me. I would take pictures at shows, and I would document my life with three younger siblings and that sort of thing. And then I went to college at Boston University, initially for graphic design, but then I ended up transferring to the photojournalism department before sophomore year, and graduated from there and then moved to New York. And what's funny is I thought, oh, I'm never not actually going to do like photojournalism, but now I'm hilariously like shooting for the New York Times and kind of gone full circle with it. So that's kind of cool. In that education, even though I wasn't like a war photographer, like was beneficial in the way of learning how to document things and tell a story.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's really kind of cool looking at work. It's like you can kind of see the photojournalism aspect, but it's a little more like stylized. But you can definitely see it's kind of a different look than normal. Like I wouldn't call you
Oh,
photojournalist, but it's all like you said, storytelling and whatnot.
exactly, and that's what I found that the education was really beneficial in that way. I think the way that it was taught was very much like here's how to do spot news, here's how to do sports, and like I at first I was kind of rolling my eyes with it, but it actually was good because it taught you how to use different lenses and taught you how to like go find a story and make something cool out of it, or and talk to strangers and get their information and that sort of thing.
Is that something you've always just been comfortable with, this kind of talking to strangers and photographing people and whatnot, or is that something that kind of took you a while to get used to? Or
No, it took a while. It even took a while, like with when I had to shoot portraits of people, like feeling comfortable enough to ask them, like to do certain things, like move a certain way, sit in a certain spot. That just comes with practice, and learning how to do that initially was helpful in college, where we had to like get the captions. Like in order to get the captions, you have to get the people's name and
yeah.
where they're from and that sort of thing.
I'm the worst with captions. I occasionally have like some editorial client that wants captions, and I'm like, I'm just fucking terrible at it. Like I forget my pen. I'm like, I'm just like get busy shooting. Hats off to any photojournalist that can remember to do that stuff.
I
Um,
know, I know.
but like, what kind of prompt do you make the jump from like graphic design into photo? Was there like a turning point, like maybe like a photographer inspired you, or how did you kind of make that jump? You think it was just more you had?
Well, so I literally was on the website of my college and stumbled upon the journalism department, and I was like, "What am I doing?" Because graphic design, I didn't actually do any of that at CU. It was the school was very classical, so we did painting, drawing, and sculpture only for the first year, the year that I was in the program.
Hmm.
And then I thought, this is crazy. Like, I'm just going to transfer. I didn't realize that they had that major. I just didn't even it didn't cross my mind. And then when I saw they had it, because I was so focused on being in the art school, I was like, I'm going to school for art. Right, art. And the photo program was not actually in the art school. It was in communications college. So a completely different school within the university. And I didn't want to leave the school because I was having a good time there. So
Yep.
being in Franklin, I just drove up day and transferred, and I took a summer class to kind of like catch up because it's a lot more like liberal arts based. So I transferred there and started the program. And I didn't actually take a photo. I took one. Yeah, I took like 2 photo classes. I didn't actually take the real photojournalism class that was important until I believe my senior year anyway. But I still had access to the lab, still had access to the rentals, starting that fall in sophomore year.
That's cool. I always just thought it's like the hardest thing. You're like 18 or 19, and they just expect you to figure out like what you got to make a decision now. Like what are you gonna do the rest of your life? It's like the hardest thing that I don't know how people do it. You know.
Yeah, and I mean transferring within BU's like red tape bureaucracy was insane because I had to go back because all my like AP credits and all this stuff that I had done in high school didn't really apply to the art program, so that I had to go back and figure out, like what can I get placed out of with these things that I like skipped a year anyway, freshman year, and I had to go back and take like these intro writing classes that all the freshmen had already taken.
Yeah.
Who were in comm. It was a whole debacle, but I made it through.
It's all rigged. It's all rigged. They just want your money. But I guess like you said, you kind of got out of BU and you ended up going to New York. Did you kind of always envision yourself living in New York? Did you think that was like a necessity if you wanted to be a working photographer? What was kind of your mindset at that point?
Sort of. I mean, at a certain point, Boston just felt really like, especially where I was living, it just felt I was too old for it almost at that point. I was like, I'm 22, I need to leave. So an opportunity came up to rent a friend's room while he was hiking the Appalachian Trail, and I took it and got a job at the Small Dark Room, which I believe has merged into Picture House. It's like a digital post-production house. Because at the time people were still shooting lots and lots of film.
Damn.
And so then I started working in New York and just kind of being poor and hustling.
Yeah. Like, did you have at that point, did you have a portfolio? Like, did you kind of have a goal in mind?
No.
Goal in mind for what kind of work you wanted to do? Like, what did you think you were gonna do?
No, I was in survival mode. I was just working at the lab, like completely not thinking about actually the business aspect of it. But I was getting free film developing at the lab, so I was able to shoot. I was shooting constantly, but there was no portfolio or that sort of level of things until a couple years later.
Yeah, because how did you kind of initially kind of start getting assignments? Like, how are you kind of getting your work out there? Like I said, did you kind of like a goal in mind? Like, I'm looking at your website now, you shoot a lot at New York Times, like you said, like portraiture. When did that kind of come all in the mix for you?
I started shooting. I had a friend who worked at C&J Music Monthly, which I don't think exists anymore. And she gave me a couple of assignments to shoot some bands for the magazine, and then I would hit up photo editors. I would go into the newsstand and look at the masthead and try to find their email addresses and just reach out and email them and say, hey, let's just shoot for whatever. So I would shoot for these little magazines that didn't pay anything, but I was getting good portrait work out of it. And I just kept doing that and doing that and doing that while having my job that I was working
at the lab.
Yeah, well, I wasn't working at the lab at that point. I was working as a studio manager for a minute, and then I was working at Time magazine as a photo editor, online photo editor.
Interesting.
Freelance.
How did you like that? What does that entail?
Oh, it was really cool. It was it was around the run up to when Obama was starting to run for president. It was late 2007. So it was cool. It was like, hey, we need a photo of like this person to go along with this story, and like, what's the tone of the article, and like, can you find a picture that kind of matches that? So it was cool. I would get the wires in and go through and find them. It was kind of fun. But that was only a limited time thing. Like, Time didn't have like full time. It was like you had like a 7-month
contract.
Like contract or something. So, but my photo editor there, my boss rather, like the main photo editor, he was always like, if you want to shoot something, that'll be our deal. Like, you can always go and shoot it. And so that was really nice. And then I ended up working at at a design firm doing like web developing stuff, just very basic stuff.
Yeah.
For like part time, so 3-4 days a week, which was enough to like fill in the income gaps while I was able to like try to do other photo stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's like the hard thing I was gonna ask you about. Like is as a like young photographers like listening, I think they struggle with like you look at like a working photographer. It's like how do you make that transition from like it's easy to get one job, but how do you make it to the point where you can actually make your living at? Like, did it take it like hearing you kind of talk about it sounds like it was kind of like a gradual progression to the point where you
Oh
could
yeah,
actually make your living from it.
yeah, very gradual. Like it's not either people are very rich or they are in debt and have a lot of credit card debt,
Mm-hmm.
or it takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or they just hit the lottery and like become Instagram famous and then it works.
Yeah, because for you, do you feel like it was just kind of you kind of kept building up, getting more and more clients, and then kind of broke into the ad world where you can actually make some real money? Was there like one job you feel like was like a turning point for you, or was there like anything that kind of sticks out?
There was a point I was kind of like barely working, like a part-time job doing web stuff, and I was like, I didn't know if I could make the jump to like actually be full-time freelance until the end of 2010.
Yep.
When I was like, okay, I did this one job for like a skate clothing company and they paid me like a stupid amount of money. And I was like, okay, I have two really decently sized ad jobs under my belt. Like, I'm just going to do it. Like, cause you kind of have to rip off the Band-Aid at a certain point. And I mean, I could always like go back to working somewhere if I needed to.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so from then on, and I just gotten a new agent at that point. So I was just kind of ready for it. I was like, I can't have this agent if I'm going to have a job that prevents me from going somewhere. So, yeah, that's kind of what happened. I just dove in.
Nice. Was that the PacSun ad campaign you shot?
Oh no, that was that came about like 3 months after, actually. When I I shot in let me see, 2011. Oh my god, I'm like forgetting all of
It's all right.
Yeah,
I just remember it.
Yeah, no, but you're correct though. That was one of the bigger ones that I got while I had right after I got my agent. So that was a few months later. So that was another thing where I was like, oh, like I'm doing fine. Like this is going to be good. So
was that like? Do you remember that first ad campaign you shot? Like, was that like a nerve-wracking experience? Were you completely comfortable, kind of going into a bigger production? What do you kind of remember about that like first big job where it's a lot more on the line? You think?
So that first big job, hilariously enough, was almost exactly 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It was like May of 2009. And I almost it was kind of good how ignorant I was about the whole thing. It was very low-fi production. It was like a big job for Sony Ericsson, but it didn't feel stressful, even though we were in LA and I was living in New York and I like traveled with this job and we had all the crew and everything, but it felt chill. And I think it was like a good, like training wheels on experience.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went in not knowing anything, which was good. Almost, I didn't realize I didn't psych myself out in a way. And yeah, it ended up going well. It actually was shooting it. It was shooting this campaign with this phone that was like a camera.
Interesting. So you shot the whole thing on a cell phone.
Yeah, which is funny because now that's like what people do with iPhones, but this was like a different thing. And so that made it less like stressful in a way too, because it wasn't like a big camera and like we weren't like shooting tethered. It was literally shooting on a phone and then downloading like from a USB connection to a laptop.
No, that's interesting. Because did you have any experience like assisting prior to that, or anything like working on sets, or because I know you worked in the lab and you did some studio management. But did you kind of have a lot of experience working on?
No, I would like assist when I was studio manager. I did like one digi checking and like assisting thing, and I was like, I'm never doing this again.
You didn't
So I
like
never
it?
really no. So I never did it. I kind of dove right in.
Nah, I think it's smart. I don't think it's like a necessity. Like I was talking to Chris Buck, and he's funny. He's like he basically tells anybody, he's like, if you want to be a photographer, don't be an assistant ever.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I mean,
y-
well, now I feel like all of these new younger kids are kind of coming up without ever having have to do it because they put their work on Instagram and then they're instantly working. So I think it's the barrier to entry does not exist as much as it used to, where you were like that you did your time assisting and then you were like moved up to first assistant and then you started shooting on your own. I don't think that exists anymore. And
yeah.
people who I think you can assist obviously and like then break in that way and like make some money while you're doing it and travel. So it's definitely, I mean, obviously without assistance, I need people to assist.
Yeah.
But I have people who just assist and they're happy doing that and they don't like the stress of having to worry about being their own photographer and just they love assisting, and that's I think the ideal assistant in a way.
Yeah, you can make a good living doing it, and you get to work with a lot of different people. Like, I'm not knocking it. I did it for like a few years, and I actually really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. But like you're saying, yeah, it's way different now with like Instagram and stuff. What's your take on Instagram? This is something I've been talking to a lot of photographers about these days. You feel like it's a necessity for like being a photographer, like promoting your work? Is it something you enjoy? What do you think about Instagram, I guess?
So I have a complicated relationship with it. I feel like I need it to kind of show people my work and what I'm doing.
Yep.
I don't like that. It almost feels like if I put a picture up that doesn't get as many like likes or whatever or engagement as I expect, then I almost don't like the picture as much anymore, and I need to try to retrain my
Mind.
brain to stop judging it based on like external factors. Like back when I would put stuff up on Flickr, it wasn't like I was checking Flickr on my phone constantly because I didn't have a smartphone. I would go to the computer and see like, oh, I got a bunch of likes on it, cool, or comments, sweet. But it wasn't in my face 24/7. And I think this like external validation thing is not healthy.
No.
So I'm trying to think less of it, and also the algorithm like is also a killer. And you're like, does anyone? Am I like just posting into the void? Like, where is everybody?
Where's my likes?
I know, and it's not good. I think that also there's a lot of pressure with Instagram stories to like show BTS and like, hey, I'm working, and then it just gives this false narrative that is like it's just another layer of pressure and bizarreness.
Yeah, it's like an illusion. Like a lot of the times, like anybody can go in their archive and throw photos up there and make it look like they're like this busy every day, this like banking. But the reality of it, you know, I think from talking to a lot of photographers, everybody kind of has their ups and downs in this business. You know, like some months you'll be busy, some months might be slow. Yeah, so Instagram, it is weird. It's like it's good and bad, I guess. You just have to navigate it.
Yeah, I think taking a step back and like reevaluating what your relationship is to it is very healthy, because it can be like suck you down into like this wormhole of misery. So I do think it is necessary to, because honestly, I don't even use my Tumblr anymore. I just use Instagram as my blog now, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it took me a while to kind of bite the bullet and just be like, okay, I guess this is where I'm posting all of my actual work. Because initially it was just like, hey, this is me like on a road trip, yay! But now I have to like use it as a
it's like a portfolio now. I was talking to my friend. He's like, man, if I upload something there, it's like I'm making a statement. It's like my new portfolio piece. It's not like this. Like,
It's true. It's true. So I understand the necessity of it, but also need to like chill with it.
Yeah, I hear you. Just focus on your work and make the pictures you want. I think that's like probably the best way to do it. You know, one thing I always kind of liked about you did. I don't know if you still do it. You used to do like a quarterly newsletter. I used to get it. I think I might still get it. Where you'd kind of do like every quarter, you kind of do an update on your work. You'd email it out to like people. You could sign up for it. I was on it, and you kind of give an update on projects you're working on. Is that something you still do? Did you find it like a valuable marketing tool?
Yeah, so I actually still do it. I don't do it as often. I think I now do it twice a year because I try to pack more into each one,
Hmm.
and I try to kind of filter out. I just feel like people are so bombarded with emails that I try to limit it.
Yep.
Like it would be kind of it would be like my seasonal newsletter. I think I just did a spring one and then I did a fall one before that. So I try to wait until if you shoot something and like say, it doesn't come out for 7 months or 8 months. I
Hmm.
try to wait for like the bigger jobs
Yep.
to come out and then use those as like marketing. Um, I think it's just a good way to get like your name in people's inboxes, even if they don't even read it. Like they'll kind of like subconsciously see that they got an email from you, and then maybe
Yep.
so and so is we're shooting this person, so like maybe we can um, hit her up. Like it's just kind of getting um,
In their face.
just getting your name in front of people.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's smart how you said you kind of only do it twice a year because you almost like people, you're not bombarding them, and then when it does show up, people kind of like are interested. Because when I read it, it was almost like you definitely put effort into it. And it was like almost like reading like a little magazine article or something. So it was kind of fun to like. It wasn't just like, hey, I shot this. You'd put a little more like writing into it and stuff.
Yeah, I try to put a little story behind it.
Mm. No, it's smart. And one thing I always kind of ask people, did it kind of take you a while to find your like voice as a photographer? Like your style,
Um,
aesthetic, is it like something you think a lot about, or is it that's just kind of naturally how you've always shot?
yeah, so I like look back at my old work and I see how when I was trying to do something different that I don't necessarily consider my style now, but I do see like a common narrative or visual thread through things. There are some things I shot 15 years ago that I think, oh, this rules. Like it's totally who I am now, and it's stayed the same. And then there's some like I've gone off like on little side paths where I try to light differently, or I try to be a little more conceptual, and I realized it's not what I what I ended up doing in the long run. So I can see it progress, and now I feel like I'm kind of in. It's like twofold. I'm in like a groove where I have my aesthetic and style, but I also don't want to be stagnant and keep it the same forever. So I do try new things, and I do kind of add to my like repertoire of visual, aesthetics. But I also try to want to keep it consistent where it looks like my work as well.
Hmm. Yeah, because like when people look at your work, what are you like hoping they take away from it? Like I guess it's a hard thing to do. Like how would you describe your work, or like how do you is there something you want to convey, or like how do you want people to like I guess look at your work? I guess.
I guess I kind of want it to always be timeless. I don't want it to feel like, oh, this photo was totally taken in like 1997 or 2010. I want it to feel like it live on its own 50 years from now, sort of thing. So I guess timelessness is something I try to strive for. Almost visceral. Like I know the word authenticity is used too much, but that feeling of realness and unpretentiousness and but almost in an elevated, stylized way.
Yeah,
Like,
I like it. Your photos kind of almost have like a dreamy sense to them a little bit, like some of the projects you've done. I think there's like one project you photographed some kids, and it's just like, yeah, there's like
yeah,
like an overarching like it's an interesting look to it, you know?
yeah. That's kind of what I try to go for. Like with the kids project, I just was tired of seeing kids shot in like this really cheesy, overly happy lit way, and I
Mm.
wanted to make it feel like me, but was shooting kids and not like cool 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that's what I was kind of going for, just like slightly elevated, but also natural vibe. I guess is how I would
No, I like it. And, do you ever feel like you need to like create work that's going to attract clients? Or do you just kind of create the work that you enjoy, put it out there, hope people are going to react to it? Because like once you get into commercial stuff, do you feel like you need to make work that might attract clients, or how do you kind of approach that aspect of it?
Well, yeah. So there have been times when I've been thinking, oh, I have to do this test shoot that's really like to be really marketable and that sort of thing. And I think that you kind of loses like it becomes kind of soulless and like you kind of lose the point at that when you're doing that. I think it's a balance of doing work that feels like doing a shoot just to do a shoot because you have to market yourself. I just feel like is not the way to do it. I think making work that could have an element that is commercial to it, that you enjoy making anyway, a personal project is the move, because that's where when I get a deck from a client, like when they're referencing my work, like they're choosing all of the personal projects that I've done to show what they like. So it's not the very, very like commercially, work. They're into the personal project. So I think it's important to do them in the first place, but also, sure, you can have like the idea of, oh, like we'll send this out to people, but not like, oh, I really want to shoot shoes, so I'm just going to shoot like people wearing shoes. It has to be, it has to be
sincere.
It has to come from something and have some into artistic integrity, and not just be like completely for commercial, purposes.
Yeah, I don't know, like this business is just so random how jobs get like thrown out. You might as well just shoot what you want and like hope people. At least that's how I kind of look at it. Just shoot whatever you want. Hopefully, people will hire you, because like you said, in my experience, anytime I shot something I thought some client would maybe hire me for, it never works.
Yeah, you can't overthink it. I think it's just a matter of like consistently putting out good stuff, and then knowing how to market yourself to the people who would be into your work.
Is the marketing aspect something you feel like you've always been good at, or is there like take you a while to get better at, or is there things you kind of learned over time, maybe things you wasted money on? I guess what's your approach these days?
I think there are some money wasting type things, like source books, like that stuff that was basically pre-internet that they charge a lot of money to be involved in, and I can't imagine anyone actually like opening up a source book and looking for a photographer in there at this point. They're literally like using Instagram for it. But marketing, I've always done like really nice printed pieces, and I think that's really important. I think especially now where everyone's looking at photos on a phone, like I try to have really nice paper stock and mail things out and give people something physical to hold with the images in it. I'm working on one right now that's going to be a really big mailing booklet. I did an editorial mailing a couple weeks ago, and this one is going to be very similar book-wise, but it's just going to have one image swapped out. And it's going out to like 1,900 people.
Damn, that's a big one.
Yeah, it's already the biggest one I've ever done, but I haven't done one. I was so busy last year, I didn't actually even get a chance to do one. So this one has new, older images, but it's kind of an overarching like, hey, like this is what I do, like celebrity lifestyle, portrait, whatever. It's genreless. It's more about like my overarching vision. So yeah, that's going out within the next couple weeks. So
that's cool. That's exciting. Yeah. And like you said, you kind of moved to New York initially. I know you live in LA now. How was your time in New York? What kind of prompted your move to LA? And is there one you feel like it was beneficial starting out in New York, or what was your kind of take, being that you've lived in both markets, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, living in New York was great because everything is there. Like if you want to go to a meeting, you can do 15 meetings in a week if you want to. So it's great to get FaceTime with people there. I like shooting I like living in LA more in terms of being able to go shoot stuff in the mountains and go shoot stuff at the beach and have this varied like landscape that, and the light is way better, obviously. So being able to make the work and have it be less stressful, and like being able to put my gear in a car and drive somewhere, instead of lugging stuff on the subway or trying to. I lived in New York before Ubers even existed, so it was a matter of like calling a car service, and it was just a
Hassle.
lot more shopping. So it was great to kind of start out in New York, and then being in LA has been nice, in that I have like a studio space and a photo community that's really active, and the camaraderie out here has been really nice.
Was that like a scary jump? Like you're starting out in New York, you got some clients, and then you uproot yourself to another city. Was that like a scary thing? Like do you feel like you were starting from scratch to find new clients, or what do you kind of remember about that move?
No, I don't. No, because most of my like shoots were actually out here anyway, and I was always in LA shooting when I lived in New York. And with the internet, being on one coast versus the other isn't really a problem. It was just a matter of I just kind of sent something out being like, hey, I live in LA now, like, in case for photo editors, whatever, wanted to hit me up for jobs that were in LA versus New York, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was like, it felt initially like, what am I doing? And this is maybe sketchy, just moving into LA and like not knowing what was going to happen, but it's actually fine. And now so many photographers live out here.
That's good. Change is good. Change is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like looking at your work, it seems like once you moved out to LA, you started shooting for the New York Times a lot. Like you've been shooting a lot of celebrities. Was that something like, was that like a goal of yours to shoot like more entertainment stuff? Or that
totally. No, it's so funny. I didn't ever imagine doing that. It was not part of the plan. It just kind of fell in my lap, and now that's a lot of what I do. And my agent at the time, it was funny. She was like, well, yeah, you're in LA. You probably like shoot a lot of celebrities now. And I totally didn't do that for a year and a half or so after I moved here. And now it's kind of snowballed into what it is now.
Yeah, it's
being in LA, obviously a lot of them live out here. And even though the New York Times is in New York, if they want to get someone in front of the camera, they need someone who's in LA. So that's kind of how it happened.
And is the editorial stuff, is that something you still enjoy? How do you kind of generally like approach editorial shoots? Like, do you kind of go in with it like with a plan in mind, or are you kind of more organic how you approach it?
No, that's why I really like them, because it's a great counterbalance to advertising. It's usually just me and me and my camera. I keep it really lo-fi, really chill, no plan. It's like my fun little challenge. I get there and I'm like, all right, what can we make? How can we make a good picture out of this like ugly hotel room or this like weird, badly lit, place? So it's like my little fun game that I enjoy a lot. It's like the total opposite of an ad shoot, which has been completely meticulously planned out, and there's lots of crew and lots of production and lots of stuff going on. And with the editorial, it's like, you get 10 minutes, and I'm like, all right, we'll make it happen. So it's like total opposite. But being able to work in that way, I think is really beneficial when it comes to advertising stuff, because I know how quickly we can get things done if we need to, and how to, it's something. It's great. It's good for problem solving.
Yeah, and it seems like looking at your work, your style it looks like you use a lot of natural light, pretty much. So it seems like you kind of allows you to work quickly. Probably, maybe I'm wrong, but this.
Yeah, I definitely use natural light if I can, and I will supplement, but I try to keep it looking very natural. Even if I am supplementing, but on ad jobs, like I have big HMIs, and I'm like, we have lights happening, even though it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
We have fake sun going on.
I like it. Elizabeth can make it happen. She's a pro.
Yeah, but with editorial, if it's just me, I don't like lugging stuff, so I try to keep my footprint very small.
I like it. It's this clean, like really strong portraits. And with the portrait stuff, you're photographing all different types of people. I'm always curious, like, how do you deal with like subjects? I'm sure it happens sometimes. Like, people might have difficult personalities, don't want to be there. How do you deal with those tough shoots where you got to make something happen, but it might be difficult for whatever reason?
I think the way that I shoot kind of lends itself to the whole situation not being stressful in the first place. So I haven't really dealt with like quote unquote like difficult subjects.
Yep.
I haven't really had to. I think I think that I kind of disarm people in a way, like, and that kind of lends itself to it being not stressful.
That's good.
or negative. Yeah, I haven't really had like any horror stories, and again, it's also like you have to learn how to read the room and just see what people are into. If someone's not into doing something, it's like don't argue with it, just kind of be as agreeable as you can, and there's a lot of diplomacy that goes into it, especially that also bleeds over into advertising and lots of different personalities and knowing how to just work through them. So the more you shoot these things, like these portraits, the celebrities, whatever, the more you do it, the more you kind of learn how to walk into a room and say like, okay, is this going to be easy or is it going to be a little bit of maneuvering, and then you kind of go from there.
Yeah, because I know my personal experience, I've had shoots sometimes where you take one picture and they're like, are we done? And it's like, no, man, we're not done.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. One shoot I was really interested in talking to you about is you photographed DJ Kahled. I think it was for the New York Times. What was your experience?
That was for Newsweek.
Oh, Newsweek. What was the experience photographing that guy? He seems like quite the character.
He was a total character. He actually was really great and super chill, did anything I wanted, and it was awesome. It was funny, we were waiting around, he was getting his haircut for like a really long time. But he was so nice. He's like, go in the kitchen, like grab anything you want. Like he was really chill. He was excited to show off his stuff. So we like went into his car and I shot a photo of him like through the window, and then in his living room and with his son, and it was great.
Is he really that character in real life, or is it like he turns the phone on and he turns into like some like hype man, another one?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't actually witness the whole he actually was Snapchatting during our shoot, which is funny because I took a screenshot. I went and found it, and I took a screenshot of it, and I'm in the background, and I was like, oh my god, I'm on DJ Kahled Snapchat. It's like, I've made it.
You should put that on your website. It's like on the bottom asterisk on DJ Kahled.
Yeah.
No,
but he was great.
No, that's funny. And, I was looking at one ad campaign you did. It looked pretty amazing. You did an ad campaign for Airbnb. I was kind of curious how that kind of came about and how that experience was. It looks like you got to travel a little bit on that campaign. So I ended up working alongside like a film crew who was doing a video for it. So it was the campaign was for the Airbnb launch in China. Yep.
And so we didn't actually shoot in China, but we shot all around the world. London, Tokyo, Bangkok, Prague, Chiang Mai. And we were shooting Chinese travelers, but in all these other places. And so I had literally no assistant, no gear, except my camera. Had to shoot everything natural light, and no time. So it was a lot of chaotic. It was chaos. It was great. It was the editorial problem solving really came about.
Yeah, it came out great. I love the work.
Yeah, thanks. So it was, when I tell people that I'm like, I had nothing, and we're like, what? But these ended up being subway ads in Beijing and Shanghai. So it's kind of proof that you really can make things happen without a ton of stuff. You don't need all the stuff. Like, you don't need 9 million lights. You don't need 3 assistants. Like, you can make it happen if you're confident that you can. I didn't even have a digitech. I was just shooting the card and dumping it myself at the end of the day.
Damn.
It was very, very, very scrappy, because it kind of needed to be, because we were doing both the video and the
Stills.
the photos all in with the same talent. So we had to share talent. We had to share locations.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we made it happen, and it was 20 days we were gone.
Wow, that's quite the shoot. That's exciting. Um,
Yeah.
and you know what, the commercial stuff I was curious to talk to you about, like I know you have a rep now. Do you feel like it's like important to have a rep if you want to be working in advertising stuff? Like, what's your take on that? Like as far as having a rep, like you feel it adds value or what do you think?
I don't think it's super necessary in order to get jobs. It's really helpful to kind of just have someone on your side who's an advocate for like how much money you should be getting or like the production support you may need for a certain shoot. But it's not like like a client's going to go to your site and see that you don't have a rep and then be like, oh, I'm not hiring this person. Like, I don't think that's the case at all.
Hmm.
I think maybe it used to be, but it's really not super necessary for getting the jobs.
Mm.
It's nice to have someone on your side once you do have the jobs that can work with you and get you, where you need to be budget wise and production wise to do a good job.
Yeah, and then like as far as like when you partnered with your rep, what is it you were kind of looking for, and how did you feel like how did you know it was kind of the right fit for you? You think?
Um, I've had several reps before, and it's just like kind of like you're kind of in this marriage relationship. Like you're dealing with money and like your goals, and you want to figure out. It's basically like someone who's your like work life partner, really. So I really like my agents now. They help me with production, which is not anything that's ever really happened before. So it's like from start to finish, like each job feels like I'm getting the production support, the support with the budget from start to finish, which is awesome. And is that now that I'm doing bigger jobs is like so helpful and kind of lets me stop worrying about the logistics and just go for getting the good pictures out of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's just you kind of have a team at this point, and kind of helps you kind of keep building, I guess. Once you get in these bigger productions, you can't do it all yourself.
Yeah, and I tell people even if they don't have a rep, like say you get a really big job and you're like, I don't know what to do, like hit up an agent and they'll help you. Maybe they'll take a little bit of commission off of your fee, but they're helping you get a better fee in the first place. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, like they're probably more than willing to help you out, because it can be, I think a problem a lot of times is people don't have agents don't know what to really charge, and that starts bringing rates down because then clients are like, oh, this person did it for like this much.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important for people to remember like what day rates are supposed to be for certain jobs to keep them up because they're only falling. They're not getting higher.
Yeah, for sure. It's just you got to ask questions. Like a lot of times, I'll just ask producers. Like I have a producer who's been in the business for like 35 years, and she knows the numbers inside and out. And I think like you said, you just got to ask questions, and it just helps. You'll make more money.
Yeah, exactly.
And one project on your website I was looking at is called Born This Way. It's really amazing photos. I was kind of curious, like what that project was all about, how it kind of came to be.
So I've been working. I believe this was the first shoot I did with. So A&E Networks owns Lifetime, and I'm sorry, this wasn't for Lifetime. Lifetime. I've been doing a lot of stuff for Lifetime and A&E, and so A&E hit me up to do these kind of not really behind the scenes, but kind of documenting for social media and for advertising the show Born This Way. So I've done 2 seasons of it so far, where I'll shoot some portraits of the people on the show, but I'll also go to like where they work and like what their lives are like, and kind of just really photojournalism style document them to kind of bring out like the humanity and the like who they actually are. So sometimes I'll go when they're actually shooting the show and have to kind of dart around and shoot behind the scenes, like get my shots that I need while they're actually shooting the show. But then other times I'll go and we'll have like a separate day where we just like say like one of them is a really avid swimmer, so like we like went to her local pool and like shot her while she was doing her laps and that sort of thing. So it was really cool. They give me a ton of freedom. They're like, go do you, like just shoot them.
Yeah.
And so so what ended up when it ended up coming out is like this, I don't even know, there's so many images that they end up using little bits of them, like the big banner that ended up being produced to kind of advertise the show was like snippets of like 10 or so of my images throughout the time that I had been documenting it. So it was kind of cool to see that they just use it as marketing.
Yeah, they were pretty amazing, amazing portraits, and it seemed like you said, they just kind of let you kind of do your thing and kind of shoot it how you would this kind of personal work. It seemed like it's kind of let you.
Yeah. No, Amy, their photo team is great. They really know how to hire like the right people for each job, and just because they're producing television shows it's not even about that. It's about the photos that happen alongside them. And I did one for Lifetime, which is under the A&E like umbrella, where I documented a Christmas movie being made, and then they had hired all female photographers for all the different Christmas movies, and then they put it together in this really beautiful bound book that they then mailed out to people. So it's they really champion photography, which is great.
Damn, that's awesome. Sounds like a dream client right there.
Yeah.
And a couple portraits I really loved you took. You photographed Charles Bradley, amazing musician, sadly passed a few years ago. I was curious, like, what your experience was working with him, because his story was so interesting. How he kind of came up later in life.
Yeah, his story was crazy, and I didn't even really know much about it when I was asked to shoot him. But that happened right before I moved to LA, so I was in Brooklyn, and it was a very lo-fi shoot. Like, it was me and an assistant, no lights or anything. I had been given some art direction of like what they wanted him to be doing for the cover, where he's kind of looking up. But other than that, we just kind of walked around my neighborhood, shot in my backyard, like very, very chill, very relaxed, like no makeup team, no styling team, very, very bare bones. And then that's like where we got some magic pictures. And again, going back to like, you don't need tons of stuff to make things happen. It's
less
just
is
really
more.
about. Yeah, and the great thing about it was they wanted me to shoot it all on film, because the record was done. Victim of Love was recorded on analog equipment, so they wanted the entire process to be analog, which was really cool. So I got to shoot. I shot on my RB67, and that's what the cover image ended up being.
Oh wow!
From.
Is film something you still mess around with these days at all, or not so much?
It's funny. I actually just started shooting film again because I resurrected my gigantic negative scanner from. It's from like, I think it came out in 2001. It's this monster. I had to replace the motherboard on it, and now I've kind of started shooting film again because I can scan it really well and get it looking the way I want. So within the last month or so, I've been shooting a bunch of film.
That is exciting. It's kind of interesting. It's interesting to see like the resurgence. A lot of people are like this super into film these days. It's cool to see, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think people can kind of rely on it for like this aesthetic instead of, it's like, oh, shot on film. It's like, yeah, but like, what's in the picture? You know, I think that's still because it's film now. Pictures used to only be on film, and now the fact that it is on film is like this different thing, which is funny because we're gone backwards. The fine vinyl, you know, it's like this kitschy, unique thing.
Yeah.
So I started shooting film again because it just slows me down. And with digital, you can just shoot thousands of pictures and not pay attention.
True.
So I'm trying to do it for that purpose, to kind of really pay attention to what's in each frame instead of just kind of blindly, you know, hitting the shutter button.
No, it's smart. And kind of, I guess, to wrap up, like, you've been doing this for a while. Like, in a business that's like so competitive. There's so many photographers these days. What do you think? What do you got to do to kind of set yourself apart? Like, you've been really successful in doing all the commercial stuff. I guess, like, what do you think you've learned in doing this and in such a competitive business? What do you think people need to do to make it work?
Oh man.
You got all
I
the
think
answers, right, Elizabeth?
yeah. I think it's just a matter of consistently putting out photos that are good. It's like, again, with Instagram, unfortunately, it's kind of a necessity to keep that updated and get your work in front of people. I think doing printed promos is still really important. I think doing email blasts is really important. Getting meetings, FaceTime with people is really important. Just kind of pounding the pavement is still. It's easy to look at people who just got Instagram famous and seem bazillions of followers and all this stuff, but I think that's kind of like winning the lottery. Like, you really need to you don't need to assist to move up in the world, the photo world, as much anymore. But I think you still need to do all the hustling that that stuff doesn't change.
Do the work. Grind it out. I like it.
Yeah.
And I guess my last question, any goals for your own work moving forward? Anything you're hoping to work on? Anything on the pipeline?
Yeah, I want to do, again, more directing. It's really so fun to get out from behind the camera and completely be in control of a scene without having to actually physically take the picture and do that. It's a whole different way of working. It feels a lot more collaborative. It feels a lot more, it's just fun. It's when you're so used to being like the one operating the camera, you're almost separated more from the person that you're shooting. But with directing, you can really kind of get in there and control things more. And I like controlling things in the first place. So.
You can really control your vision. You can get it through.
Yeah, it's really fun. And then you have so many options with the edit and the grading and all that stuff. It's just, there's so many more possibilities. So I'm really trying to get more into that world. And just right now I'm just kind of doing my own camera operating and playing with that and just making stuff. And then, from there, hopefully get more and more.
Well, I like it, and Elizabeth, can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this. Like I said, I've been following your work for a long time, and really excited to get another fellow Franklin, Mass resident. I think it's so funny.
I know, it's so crazy. I'm like, I'm from this town, Massachusetts. Probably never heard of it.
But for people listening, where's the best place to check out your work?
ElizabethWeinberg.com.
Perfect.
And and also Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. Instagram is life.
Yeah, I'm at Elizabeth R. Weinberg.
Perfect. I'll link it and people can go check it out. And thanks so much.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. I actually want to tell you guys about a new image transfer tool I've been using lately called PicDrop. PicDrop's a really great tool for when you need to send off those files to your clients or whoever you're working with. You can create private galleries, different folders for whatever various assignments you're working on. It's really great. You can your clients can write notes on the photos you send to them and rate them. And it's just a really easy way to communicate with your clients and keep everything organized in one spot. I've been using it for a little over a month now and really enjoy it. For years, I was using Dropbox and WeTransfer and things like that. But with PicDrop, it was actually designed by photographers, so they really understand what photographers need. Like I said, I've been enjoying it. And with today's podcast, if you enter the promo code PHOTOBANTER, you're going to get 3 months free when you sign up at PicDrop.com. So definitely go check it out and let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I've been enjoying it. And just remember to enter the promo code PHOTOBANTER, and you'll get 3 months free when you sign up at PicDrop.com. And also, it's got to give a big thank you to our guest, Elizabeth Weinberg. Been a big fan of her work for years. She's just always shooting really cool portrait work and advertising, regular contributor to the New York Times. So definitely go check out her website at elizabethweinberg.com, as well as her Instagram at Elizabeth R. Weinberg. Lots of cool work up there. And as always, I'll be having weekly podcasts every Monday on iTunes, Spotify, as well as my website, alexgagnePhoto.com, and on my Instagram, at alexgagnePhoto. Thanks so much for listening, and take care.